Welcome to episode 1 of kind of stubborn. Jesus Christ, almost forgot what I called this, what I named this, what I just put in Photoshop maybe 20 minutes ago. Welcome to Kind of Stubborn. My name is John. Welcome. It's a little show, a little endeavor we're trying out. Off the bat, I guess I want to make sure I'm not making any false promises. Don't know how long this is going to last. Time-wise, in terms of it could be a half-hour show, it could be an hour show. By the title, Kind of Stubborn, I clearly didn't wait or get things prepped and organized before I started this. So I guess it's a good start to any podcast, kind of listing down the negatives and things you might not accomplish. For instance, the air conditioner's on. It's hot, I'm sweaty, and this is already a real stressed out environment. Like, I'm sweaty. It's a whole different beast doing this yourself. And then, like, you turn the camera on yourself, and it's just you here, and you're the one that set up the lights. And there's 2 lights, and they're on one singular person, and that's you. And you're the only one sitting here. I've been wanting to start some stuff for a while. Obviously, I do my music stuff, and like I got my own little TikTok thing, blah blah blah. But want to try something new, want to try something else, want to try something my own. But that's also why I'm kind of like, hey, if this gets to 3 episodes, we did it. You know what I mean? If this gets to 3 episodes, hell yeah. Set up clearly, kind of like I was saying before. I clearly didn't prep well in a very stubborn way. We don't have much decor or set, not that similar from how Stash Club was a couple weeks ago. But I do have this. I got this at thrift store, which I think this is what a lot of this show is going to be, even though it is going to be part in audio format. Is I don't go thrifting weekly, but kind of covering like, if I got something cool, it'd be like a cool platform to talk about. Like, I thrifted this cool shirt, and like, this is what it means to me, and am I gonna crop it, or I don't know. I mean, that's talking to me the whole show. We're also gonna talk politics. Kidding, not politics. Probably not. I don't know. If you could tell, I don't know if you can see, kind of embarrassing if you can see my Google Doc on here, but I'll read you the list. I'll read a list of what I made. Before we do that, though, word from our sponsor. Just kidding, no sponsor. It's episode 1. Boom. As per usual, 0 sugar, ginger ale, diet ginger ale. How come they don't call it diet ginger ale? I hated that. I was trying to make a podcast moment. I hate that I was, you know what I mean? I hate that I was like, ooh, that's something to talk about. How come they don't call it diet ginger ale? It's so fucking stupid. It's so just white dude with a microphone saying stupid shit. I am kind of curious why I don't call it diet ginger ale. It's gonna be a little ASMR. Inspired too. I'm usually a Canada Dry guy, but Schweppes kind of hit, huh? Thank you, Dan and Lauren, for bringing that for my birthday. They got me. That carbonated beverage probably isn't the best to have on a podcast, burping wise, but my friends Dan and Lauren got me. It wasn't the only thing they got me, but they got me a pack of sugar-free ginger ale as a little birthday gift because they know I'm on that wave, as well as a pack of toasty Cheez-Its, and among a few other things. But anyway, what I was saying about my Google Doc is, I'll read the list. It started off with just things that I thought about through the week and kind of things I'm on. And then the latter half I'm a lot more proud of. Like, we're not even going to talk about the top half. This first one starts out with natural wine summer. Second one, sleeveless crop summer. You can tell I was on a theme. Diet caffeine-free Coke/soda kick, as we just covered. Ginger ale, notably, famously caffeine-free. Home decor. It is stressful, as you can tell by the lack there of it throughout both sets. Here are the 4 we're going to talk about. Well, we're not going to talk about all 4, but there's one in particular I'm excited about that will be probably the majority of today's episode because it's my favorite time of year. But one, the Dax Flame come up, which I want to talk about that in depth because I'll probably have to write something more about that because I really don't want it to be like bullshit, but I'm stoked. For those that don't know, This will be a little preview into the deep dive. But Dax Flame, this internet personality, I'm sure you've seen the memes of like, the famous one is the YouTube videos above and below each other where it's like, I went to school dressed as Superman. And then the next one's the next day that's like, I got bullied at school, and he's wearing the Superman outfit in both of them. But he's really early YouTube, like before you could even monetize on YouTube, back when it was like, I'd even say before like the Wild West era that they used to refer it to. But it's been interesting to see his, I don't even want to call it a revival, because he's been on his like internet personality kind of real, like art in real life, kind of don't know if it's a character kind of sort of thing for a minute. But there's a whole, he's like, I think he has like 2 point something million followers on TikTok. I'm sure you've seen him. He's the guy that does like, yeah, he's in a Walmart and he's like, today I'm going to challenge a stranger to tickle me, or like whatever. I want to get into that more in depth. Maybe I'll have something written up about that, because that's interesting. Maybe it's a YouTube video in of itself. Probably not going to do that though. X Games is the majority of what we're going to be talking about, but so I'll move on quick. God, every single podcast and their mother has been talking about the Hawk Tuah girl. And I'm not going to add anything new. And there's also the disc, which I think I'm part of this discourse on TikTok, where it's like, now people are claiming that it was never funny. And I am in that group. I am claiming that group, and I do think I'm a part of that group. But it is also a little bit annoying, because partly I am in like, let people enjoy things, whatever. But when it's something that's that unfunny and hits the Facebook demographic so purely, I tend to dislike it. And then dead internet theory, which is something I shouldn't have written down, because I only know like a small part of it. So if that's any preview for this this week's episode, a rundown of things that, hey, here's a list of things that I don't know much about, we're not going to talk about, but what we are going to talk about is the X Games, brother. First of all, it coincides with my birthday, which I think is really serendipitous. Did I use that word right? I don't think I did. I think part of this podcast is going to be me looking up stuff. Serendipitous is an adjective that describes accidentally being in the right place at the right time. Big fucking brain. X Games, my favorite time of the year. It's fun. It reminds me of being a kid. I was a big, like, Nitro Circus, Robin Big, Fantasy Factory, all that sort of stuff. I remember watching when Travis Pastrana, I want to say I watched it live. Maybe I just watched it like on YouTube or whatever, but Travis Pastrana hitting the first ever double backflip. And that was like, it did change the game. And especially at the time, game-changing, sport, progressing, all this stuff. It was the craziest shit. Now, people bust that out in a best trick as a safety score. So the progression and seeing it since I was like, I don't know, probably like 7, 8, 9 to like where we are now. And I think they took out, my favorite was always the freestyle motocross. And I think they took it out because they have Moto Best Trick. Maybe it's just getting too dangerous, so maybe it's getting too dangerous, which I understand. I'm all for advancing the sport, but when it gets to a point where people are just like doing tricks and basically killing themselves to try to land this trick that's like probably incomprehensible to do as a human being, or like it's tiptoeing the line, I think it's fair to cut that off. And maybe that's what was happening in the freestyle competition. I don't really know much about it, but best trick still stands. What they did change was they used to do what'd they call it? It was basically pole vaulting with a dirt bike, which already sounds crazy. But basically what it was, what was it called? I don't know. But anyway, you'd go up. It's like this jump. And when it first started out, it was like really sick. And it was this jump that would almost go it was like perpendicular to the ground. So the jump would almost go straight up in the air. And you'd go on the dirt bike as fucking fast as you can, and there'd be a little pole similar to that of like a, what did I say, a pole vault? Is that the right thing? And you gotta whip the dirt bike up and over the little bar, and the bar is only resting on like two other bars that are maybe like, I don't know, half a foot long. So if you touch it or knock it off, again, somewhere at pole vaulting, it doesn't count, doesn't, score, whatever. But I think it only took maybe like, I want to say like 3 or 4 years till dudes started hucking themselves up towards God and clearing this bar. And we're getting up to like 40 to 50 feet in the air. And when it started, people would go high enough where you would land pretty safely, and you land with front and back wheel down first, or like leaning forward, you know what I mean? So it's a smooth landing. But I remember the last 2 years they did it, people were hucking themselves high in the air, and the landing was so low and so like not, I don't know, set up to catch you. These dudes were dropping 50 fucking feet in the air and landing flat, basically flat on the ground, suspension to the fucking ground, basically just like, not to be grotesque, but stupid. Landing right on their balls. There, I said it. Right fucking every single jump, just like the bike and the fucking whoa, and just, oh my God. So, I gotta turn this down. Jesus Christ, I think I'm peaking. Off the drugs. I'm kidding. So anyway, it started to get really, really dangerous. It started to get really, really sketchy. I'm sure there was busted tailbones. I'm sure there's potential family having plans that might have been affected by the sport, let's say. So now what they do, I still don't know what it's called, but now it's like they just built a giant mound where it's like the similar thing. It's still like whoever can go the highest, but now they finally built the landing that's like can catch the dudes, so they're not just falling 50 feet to flat. So point being, roundabout way is it's been interesting in senses like that to see like the different sports progress, and like that was only like over maybe a, I don't know, 3 or 4 year span where like that sport got so advanced and people took it over so quick they had to like modify it completely and change like the whole aspect of it so people weren't basically killing themselves. Now that's motocross. I think the motocross stuff is my favorite. Best whip is cool. Best whip is cool to have like, that's why I wanted to like get a list of all the sports and kind of like rank them. Best whip is cool. It is what you think on a dirt bike. And at that point, I think the dudes are basically doing 360s, which is like you're going as far as a 360 as you can and then just pulling that back. Skateboard street, probably under moto freestyle, probably my favorite, which I want to park here for a second. Nyjah fucking Houston. Oh my God. Holy shit. Greatest to ever do it. He just won his 16th gold medal, tying Shaun White and Garrett Reynolds, I believe. Garrett Reynolds, BMX, Shaun White, obviously snowboard and skate. And I believe they're counting winter and summer for his. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, Nyjah Houston. He won 2 gold medals this weekend. He won best trick, and then he won the skateboard street competition. Now, first of all, I'm a Nyjah fan. A lot of people aren't. At least like, so, hold on. Let me take a sip of this. Here's the thing with solo podcasting, is you can't wait for the other person to talk to take a sip break. But anyway, when he first started out, I think he started when he was like 9 or something crazy. And he was this like really, really small kid with long dreadlocks. And he was going up against legends like Ryan Sheckler and Paul Rodriguez. And it took him a while. It took him a while to get first, but eventually this kid was kicking their asses. And People retire, competition changes. Not to say the competition wasn't always strong, it definitely was, but like, people like, a Ryan Sheckler kind of age out, a Paul Rodriguez kind of age out, I forget his first name, Ortiz. I think it was something Ortiz. He was sick. But anyway, they age out or move on. Nyjah, I think people really liked him when he was a kid because it was like a novelty almost of like, wow, it's this like young kid who's beating these legends. Da, da, da. Then as he got older, and I want to preface this by saying I'm speaking as someone who is, I'm very into action sports. I love the culture. I have a great appreciation for it, but I am definitely closer to a casual enjoyer, which I'm fine with, but I am definitely closer to a casual enjoyer because like I have a hard time, naming every skateboard trick or keeping track of like, oh, that was switch or this is, or the different grinds and shit. And like, I'm not as up on like the younger coming up guys as like, someone who is an expert in it. Blah, blah, blah. So I'll preface that by, whatever. I think a lot of the purists, maybe lack of a better term, maybe not. I remember there was a time when I was a teenager where people like real hardcore skaters like didn't like him. And they claimed because he was too like robotic and he didn't have style or what they call steez. Excuse me, if you ever heard that. Which I understand. If you watch him, he nails every fucking trick. And I totally get the argument that maybe there's not as much swag to it as some of the other competitors. However, so that's when we were like teenagers. That's like years ago. And what I'm trying to say is I don't know if that discourse still stands or not. I have a feeling probably, but I think at this point he crossed the line where I think he's kind of self-aware too. Like I think he knows that like purists for a while weren't like fucking with him. And I got a wrestling podcast. I'm a big wrestling guy. We're gonna relate it. We're gonna touch in and out of wrestling for references here. I think the easiest comparison you can make to him is like a John Cena, right? When he was young, Dr. Thugonomics Cena, he was kind of cool, young guy, wins a few world championships, everyone's behind him. Then you kind of get into like the Super Cena era. He's the top guy, he's the best. He's a 11, 12, 13, 14 time world champion. People are kind of just like, I don't know, a lot of times people are just like, I don't want to root for the winner. I don't want to root for the guy. Of course he's going to win. I want to see someone else new win. And I totally get that. However, in Nyjah Houston's case, because it isn't a written TV show, I think now it's crossed over to the other side where he kept on winning and kept on being like the fucking greatest, where it almost became undeniable, where it's like maybe he doesn't have the most like style or steez on a skateboard when he lands a trick or whatever, but he's landing fucking everything. His last run in the street competition was unbelievable. It was crazy. So it's hard to see that and say like, Nyjah sucks. Nyjah's not a pure skater. Nyjah's not this. Da, da, da. And again, I'm probably not the one to like dictate that. You know what I mean? But, and I'm not saying I am, but like I'm just saying from my point of view, from my casual perspective. And also, and this is kind of where like my knowledge, like I'm not as knowledgeable on like the street parts and like all that stuff, but I believe he was self-aware enough where he saw people, he realized people had that view of him, right? And I think he started doing like these like hardcore like video parts and putting out these like crazy video parts, whether it was for a magazine or not. I don't really know the details, but I think he earned back the respect of these like purists and of these people that said like, he's overrated. He doesn't have the swag. He doesn't have the steez. His style is robotic. His style is bland and blah, blah, blah. I think he won a lot of those people over with, like I said, just continuously winning, continuously being great and just like ignoring it and plowing through it. And also showing the purists and putting out a video part and like all this shit and being like, oh, see, like I am about this. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. I hope someone related or understood the Nigel Houston tangent or riff. How old is he? We do this all the time on Stash Club. I'm gonna say he's not 30. I feel like he was like my age when he was like I feel like I was 9 when he was 9. You know what I mean? I'm gonna say 29. He's probably 28, but I'm gonna say 29. Oh, he's 29. Let's fucking go. November 30th, 1994. Ryan Sheckler's 34. I thought Ryan Sheckler was way older than that. P-Rod's 39. I thought Sheckler was closer to that. No way Ryan Sheckler's 34. I mean, I guess he had a similar story where he started skating when he was like 9 years old. He's in the Tooth Fairy? What? What do you mean he's in the Tooth Fairy? Oh, he's like a hockey player. What the fuck? I'm now realizing I've only seen the Tooth Fairy like once. I don't remember anything about the Tooth Fairy. Because there's this whole hockey scene that they're showing. And that's not ringing a bell in the slightest. The Rock was a hockey player in the Tooth Fairy? That doesn't seem right. I just googled Tooth Fairy. Tooth Fairy movie. Let's read the synopsis here. God, 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, okay. Well, here's the first fucking line. Rough and tumble hockey player Derek Thompson is a terror on the ice, earning the nickname Tooth Fairy. Oh, I get it. That's kind of clever. For that alone, that just the tagline, the log line, the elevator pitch, kind of clever. Tooth Fairy, because in hockey, you knock people's teeth out, take their tooths. I get it. It's a terror on the ice, earning the nickname Tooth Fairy by separating opposing players from their choppers. Blah, blah, blah. That's crazy. So I guess Ryan Sheckler was like a teammate or something. The age difference for teammates. Is it Tooth Fairy 2? Wait, what? No way. Holy shit. It has Larry the Cable Guy? Larry the Cable Guy in Tooth Fairy 2 has a 36% Rotten Tomatoes. More than 19% more. Yeah. Then I'm like trying to keep talking and also make sure I did the math right in my head at the same time so I don't look like a dumbass. Anyway, that much more on Rotten Tomatoes than Tooth Fairy 1. Larry tries to impress a woman by helping at her after-school program. His plan backfires when he accidentally tells the children the Tooth Fairy is make-believe, forcing him to don a tutu costume and collect teeth to make up for his careless words. This seems like a totally different movie. Like that's not a similar premise at all. It seems like they just took the IP and it's the same like font and shit for the poster. That's crazy. When did that come out? 2012, only 2 years after the original Tooth Fairy. Tagline is just wing it. That's pretty good. Wow. Learn something new every podcast, huh? Let's end this episode by being a hater a little bit, I guess. Hawk Tua. Now, here's the thing. I think if you've laughed at Hawk Tua, I don't think we get along. I don't really think we'd be friends if you ever sent someone a meme where the punchline was Hawk Tua spit on that thing. It's one of those memes that it started on TikTok for sure, but it just kind of grew and festered on Facebook. By all means, as someone whose career is on the internet, and I edit TikToks for Stash Club and me and you know, I'm always kind of thinking like, oh, especially the coming from like the Lumberland days, like we're always very like, what's the trending topic today? What's the thing today that we can jump on and you get the views, and like I get it. And props to her for it's less about her. That's the thing. I want to be clear about this. It has nothing to do, this whole conversation, whatever I'm talking about and my being a hater about it, nothing to do with her. It's all about everyone else. It's all about everyone else, like, not letting it go. And I was just listening to This Is Important, the Workaholics podcast, and they were talking about a similar thing where they were also kind of just saying, like, why is it lasting so long? They're like, we're still talking about this. And they were saying, like, they were even saying, like, and this is them, not me saying it, but they were like, yeah, this, they were joking around, but one of them was like, oh, this poor girl's life is, like, over or turned around, which I don't agree with. But I think one of them also was saying, like, okay, well, maybe for, like, the immediate future, they're 1 week of fame, right? In 1 or 2 years, it'll be so... If she obviously doesn't really super capitalize on it and turn it into, like, a personality thing, which it seems like she's doing, which, again, more power to her. Props to her. It's absolutely... If that's what she wants to get into, she has this viral moment, by all fucking means. Like, hell yeah. Point being, though, is it is interesting how... And it is just because of, like, how TikTok is, where, like, things get recreated and sounds. So, like... one viral moment will now produce several other viral moments using the same sound. And then that creates hundreds of thousands of people trying to get their little chunk of the pie. And not even if you're not trying to get your little chunk of the fame, whatever, you're just like using the trend because it's the most popular thing and whatever. And, you know, it's the same thing as using like as a popular song. It's just the popular sound, which is even crazier that like, hey, did you hear that TikTok sound? And that's the same thing as like a viral song and also like a viral audio of a meme. I think that's a whole other thing. I don't even know what I think about that. But I think anyone that's hating on her necessarily is in the wrong. Because again, like I said, the Workaholics guys were kind of like, oh, her life is different now. And beforehand, it was like, if that happens, her life is different for a couple of weeks. I hope I also don't know how old she is. I think, isn't she like 18 or 19? I hope she's smart about it. I hope, I think she was just on Plan Brie, right? Brianna Chicken Fries, Barstool podcast. I think I saw clips of that. And she was saying how she like, and this could all just be her talking, but I think she was saying like, oh, she has plans for like a show and wants to move to LA. I guarantee you, I'd put money on it, she signed with some sort of talent agency or something. I would guarantee it, she signed some sort of deal. I'd be shocked if she didn't. I can't say if that's I don't know the contract. I can't say if that's a good or bad thing. But also, I think it's important that she doesn't make... I'm just speculating. I think it's also maybe important that she doesn't say anything if she did or didn't. Because I remember that girl I'm looking for a man in finance. Trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. She made a TikTok saying she signed some sort of like, whether it was a publishing deal or she signed an artist deal or she said something. And then people just took that and spun it with the limited information. And everyone was like, oh, she signed a shitty deal. She's fucked. They have all the rights to this, that, and the other, blah, blah. I think she came up with a video a little bit afterward of like, hey, just so you know, all I said was this. I got a management team. We looked it over. I didn't screw myself over for the rest of my life. Like, it's not, I think she even said, like, it's not actually a deal like you think it is, and da-da-da. So I think I don't want to call her the Hawk Tua girl, but I don't know her name. Like, I think she was on stage with Zach Bryan, which I guess is, like, in relation to the Brie thing. This podcast, here's what I'm worried about. I think this podcast might show how chronically online I am. and I'm trying to be less cranky online. I'm better than I was like a month or two ago. I've made note of it on the podcast too, in almost like a annoying braggadocious way. I'm not trying to be. I've deleted Twitter from my phone, which I think is very important. I think I think everyone should do it. I do obviously use it. I'll go on my lab. I have a rule. I've seen it for work sometimes. If I'm like live tweeting, live Xing a Raw or SmackDown or whatever, I'm on my laptop doing it. Now, I did go to Raw last night, and I did download Twitter on my phone so I could have it during the event, and I could send out tweets during the event and whatever. Moment I was back home, boom, delete it again. So if a situation like that, I'll re-download it. Other than that, that's a laptop-only situation. Speaking of that, last thing I'll ramble on about, I promise. God, there's so many. Here's the thing about me. I got a bunch of little stuff. Cool. Turn the mic off. I got a bunch of little stuff to say in terms of like, oh, look at this new cool record I got. And then my whole commentary on it is just like, isn't it neat? That reminds me of this other small thing. And that reminds me of this other small thing. So if you like that style of someone talking, welcome to the show. Holy shit. What the fuck was I saying? That's another hard part about it just being me. If I lose my train of thought like I did just there, because that's how my brain works. Like I said, that was a little glimpse of my brain of it. Just, I remember what I was going to say. But like shooting off in 6 different directions and like want to touch on everything at once in the fear, and not even fear, I think legit fear, because I don't have the greatest memory of like, if I go here, I'm going to remember these other 6 things I want to say. So I got to say them all here. And I got to preface this first before I say, it's all very confusing. Point being, I was going to say is Twitter being a laptop activity. I saw this TikTok where people were asked different things and they were like, is that a laptop activity or a phone activity? I've never resonated with something more. I will actively, especially if I'm like, most things to me involving money. If I'm buying something or paying a bill or whatever, I think anything money involved, I think is a laptop activity. Unless it's ordering food on like an app, like ordering from the Chipotle app, like obviously app on your phone, that's kind of a designated thing. Buying flights, laptop. Ordering from like a restaurant, like doing like an online order that's not on like a Grubhub or like a Chipotle app or whatever. I got to enter in a card, laptop. Phone activity was Twitter, laptop activity. I wish I had the list of stuff. They only asked like 2 questions and the TikTok was kind of over. But speaking of over, I think this is going to come to an end. Whether this ends up being a half-hour thing, 45-minute thing, an hour thing. Let's keep the first episode short and sweet. Let's keep the first episode as a test. Do we make it to episode 2? Genuinely? Like, as someone who makes something, you want to say yes. But I don't want to lie either. I just don't want to put any pressure on myself. Also, don't know if it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly. Could very well be bi-weekly. Here's where you come in. Let me know. Let me know what you think. This is going to be on Spotify. This is going to be on Apple Podcasts. This is going to be on YouTube. I think I'm just putting it on the Raspy Taylor channel for a few reasons. One, just why make another channel when that one doesn't get uploaded to? I think, at least for the time being, it's where it's going to live. Ideally, it grows and it deserves its own channel, and by all means, bada bing, bada boom. But might as well not have like 1,300 channels at once. It's kind of my thought process. But please, by all means, I also want I think this would, again, similar to every other podcast that's out there in the world, I would love to give, I guess it would be solicited, but solicited advice with the caveat that I'm not responsible and you shouldn't listen to me. But by all means, leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your concerns, leave your topics, and we can get to some. And it'll be this week, Jeremy asked, my girlfriend dumped me because I thought I'd have a joke to end the episode. Didn't. All right. And that's what you can expect here on, what did I call this? Kinda Stubborn. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Do all that stuff. Again, audio version is going to be everywhere. Follow me on everything. Raspy on everything. You get it. Everything's in the description. It could have been a test episode. I feel like it was all right, though. But this isn't going to be part of every episode of a debrief of how the episode went. But I think it's interesting for the first one. Because it would be the first solo pod I publish. I've tried this before. I'll tell you that. I tried it before. I'd say maybe like a year and a half ago. And it didn't go awesome. I think I thought it had to be more of like telling my story. So like I started out, I think I just told like, and no one asked. By all means, if people ask specifically, I'll say like, how'd you get here? And how'd you get into this? And how'd you get into that? By all means. But I made the first episode and I was like, I guess I'll tell you how I started my journey. And I went all the way back to like, I used to make YouTube videos when I was 11, and then I got into high school, and for college I did this, and then I got hired here, and then I get, and it seemed too self-serving, which I see the irony in saying that as a person that, again, set up 2 lights, a camera, is filming and recording himself, and is going to edit himself. But you get it. It seemed too self-serving. Which I think we can be self-serving. But it seemed like that was going over the line. Let's call this episode what it is. End it here. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. I hope to see this kind of grow and continue. Okay. See you next one. Bye.